law in the powers and privileges of National Assembly, thus a committee chairman is saddled with the capacity to compel. It is the presiding officer that confers. And therefore, when a matter of this nature is brought before a house, the committee now seeks the mandate of the entire Senate. The mandate of the entire Senate is quite different from the mandate of a committee superintended by a chairman. So I don't want us to dilute this matter. This matter, Mr. President, should not be diluted. It is a serious problem. It is not just Julius Berger, like I said. Most of the committees have been having a running battle with agencies, MDAs, because they don't think this National Assembly is so serious. I don't know how we arrived at this particular situation. I was a committee member. I was at the hearing, and I raised this particular matter, whereby a committee, a competent committee, will send an invitation. Sometimes even permanent secretaries will not come. Sometimes the ministers will not come. Sometimes they send far inferior officers, and they come, and our hands are so tight. Mr. President, this is an independent legislature. This is not a subsection of the presidency. The National Assembly is an independent body. Look at section 4 of powers and privileges of the National Assembly. And they can make laws on anything, over anything, at every given time. And therefore, I summon anybody, whether you are in government, whether you are not in government, whether you are a businessman, and here we are saddled with a very unfortunate malady. Ask any committee chairman whether he's not having issues with attendance of head of NDAs or ministries. But somehow, because of the Nigerian factor, you try to compel, you try to use their power. People who come from all sorts of directions. Please is a member of our party. Please is a Yoruba man. Please is from Bauchi State. And these are happening, these are recurring dismal in our functions. And therefore, I have not seen for a very long time when Julius Berger appeared before the Senate. I have not seen for a very long time. And when we said, when Senator Ali, with all sense of responsibility, said the committee should, and I want Ali to tell us how will the committee do? What can the committee do? The only way the committee can do, the only thing, is to reach out to a presiding officer, and compel. But here, the committee is not actually asking the buy-in of a presiding officer. Mr. President, the committee is not asking for a buy-in of a presiding officer. The committee is asking for a buy-in of the Senate. The Senate, Mr. President, is bigger than a presiding officer. Once senators are in concurrence as to what we do, as long as we do not violate these rules, as long as the rule is complementary to the Constitution, the presiding officer cannot say no. The presiding officer, of course, is just but one of us, and therefore this particular motion is not calling for a buy-in of a presiding officer. It's calling for a buy-in of the Senate in its entirety, and therefore the question is whether or not the Senate agrees with the resolution and the fact of the matter. Mr. President, lastly, if we continue to dilute matters of this nature like this in a manner that we're trying to do. Then you go out there, you are taken for a ride, nobody respects you, and therefore we have to look inwards. Why are we getting some of this expectation? Why are we not getting the required attention from MDS? Is it about the institution? Is it about individuals? Is it about our processes? Then we need to sit down as a House, as a Senate, to reflect going for what we need to do. But so far, the impression out there is that anybody can refuse to come and nothing happens. And that is a fact of the matter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anger at the uncooperative, clearly uncooperative attitude of a contractor. What I'm saying should not be construed to mean a support of that. I want to align myself respectfully, even though I agree with the sentiments and emotions and some of the reasons given. I want to respectfully align myself with the position earlier canvassed by Senator Alero in terms of procedures. Let me begin by saying that with the concerns we are now hearing about even officials of the executive arm not honoring invitations and summons, there are so many reasons we can't disclose fully here about what has to be done differently by members, by committees, and also the leadership. I believe that those matters, as we say in my place, and the German will say, the stomach of a crocodile should not be opened in the marketplace. Because you don't know if you will see, you can't be too sure what you will find inside. So I will respectfully suggest that when we have an executive session properly convened at the right time, we can examine all those issues that have to do with conduct, that have to do with standards, and so on, by members, by committees, by chairmen, and by the leadership. Now, coming to this, I am a believer of the fact that this plenary, the plenary of the Senate, is a sacred place. And that's why I've never been in support. It's only very rare cases that I will support a situation where even people come here on plenary to make statements. This plenary, anytime we are meeting in plenary, and the mess is lying there, bearing the insignia of the country, solemn. It means that this is the meeting of Nigeria. This is the meeting, anytime we are meeting in plenary, is a meeting of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by its elected senators. So that is why I've always not been in support. That is why I agree with the views by Senator Alero that in the case of disobedience or recalcitrance by people invited, that the committees already have by the rules, by our rules, and by also the Constitution, the powers have been vested in the committees to compel attendance. To compel attendance. The procedure is there, and they will make an application to the presiding officer. We will now sign the necessary proceedings. So I agree that even discussing a corporate entity, no matter how big, no matter how, we're elevating them. That's why I say we should protect the sanctity of the plenary. So to that extent, I spoke in support of this road. I sat in those proceedings. I saw the minister. attended to give support to it. But I think that we should not elevate a company to the level where senators of the Federal Republic will begin to talk about. Our committees have the powers to deal with it. If we need to issue a warrant, if the committee needs to issue, compare the attendance with a warrant, the powers are already there. They will make a necessary application to the presiding officer, even today. But I caution that we should not, even in that, we should not take decisions out of emotions, out of anger. There should be effort made to put across so that this Senate, like equity, and equity like a court, they should not act in vain. We should not act in vain. Where a company, no matter how big, will now come and begin to, no. I think that's why I support Senator Alero's position. I agree with my good friend. It's one of the first times we will be disagreeing, but we are united. All of us are united about how to get people to respect the authority of the Senate or of any committee. If you disrespect a committee, you are disrespecting the Senate. You are disrespecting the National Assembly and the Constitution of the country, which we shouldn't allow. But there are ways.
Thank you very much. You've made a point.
To go about it so that we don't accelerate or promote them too much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Dicksion, for
President. I have listened very attentively to all those who have spoken, but somehow my views are totally and fundamentally different. Your Excellency, I'm happy you are now seated when I have this opportunity to speak. I associate myself 100% with some of the sentiments expressed by distinguished Senator Dicksion. That these chambers is not a place you bring contractors to, because by doing that we give them an undeserved respect. But my first question, why I say I'm happy you are the one on seat. I was a governor in Edo State, the way we have a federal government at the federal level. When I issued or I approved the recommendation of a tenders board or procurement process, and a contract is awarded, and I confirm from the Ministry of Finance that money has been paid, I go around to check if the money paid, if the job being done is up to the value of the money that has been paid. And should I find that the contractor is no longer working, even when we have paid, it is not the House of Assembly that helps me to bring an irresponsible contractor to justice. The first thing that we do, following the laws of procurement, because there's always a contract. In that contract, there are usually clear provisions as to what should be done when money has been paid and the contractor abandons site, or if the contractor is at site, is working at such a low space of work that the job might not be completed within the time frame provided for in the contract agreement. But my people have a saying that when an elderly man has shared akara with a small child, he loses respect in the eyes of the child. That we are discussing a contractor here who appear to be more powerful than the Ministry of Works that awarded this contract. I think these two people who are arresting the president, they are part of those who have spoken. Asuko, we will issue warrant of arrest for lawyer, SAM.
I'm with you.
What do we do when a senator left his seat while a distinguished senator is on his feet in order to confuse and try to persuade the Senate president, and you are diverting his attention? It is my privilege to be heard clearly without disturbing the president.
Yes, you are right. And
I don't have to be a boxer to be able to keep you under control. So, sir, Mr. President, I am sure in your 8 years as governor, you have had cause to deal with contractors who collected money and thought it was a Christmas gift. Please, do I have the permission of the House? Osita, please. So, sir, my first question, who is complaining?
committee.
Is it the committee that awarded the contract? Is the minister complaining? If the minister is not complaining or is pretending to complain, should we not make exactly the same anger on the minister as well as his agent, the contractor? When a man who gives you a job can no longer call you to order, there are questions to be asked and there are hard answers that must be provided. The man who gives contract cannot be helpless unless he compromises powers. So the anger of my brother, distinguished Senator Orji, should be directed at the Federal Ministry of Works. And like somebody said, even petty contractors collect money and walk away, and there are no consequences. And I want to ask for those of us who have had the privilege to give jobs, even in our personal capacity, when you pay your contractor with evidence and you have agreement that says once you pay a job is done, if the contractor doesn't do it, why are you not invoking those sections not only to terminate but to use law enforcement? Because this is not a civil matter, it's a contractual obligation that can have a criminal implication. And then get the security information agencies to recover the portion of the money that has been paid and for which no job has been done. For the committee to not be the one chasing a contractor and the federal ministry seems to be indifferent, suggests that we are directing our anger not to the source of the problem but to the consequences arising from official neglect by those who are empowered to enforce contract agreement. I therefore submit, sir, with profound respect, that the Honorable Minister of Works is as implicated as any other person. Because in the first instance, he is the one representing the executive in awarding this contract. He has a story to tell as to why his contractor has become more powerful than him. Until we do that, I think we are being misled into chasing a contractor. Who is this contractor that is so powerful? More than the federal government, more than EFCC, more than all the agencies that are put in place to deal with people who are involved in criminal embezzlement of public funds. So I submit, sir, that everything we have said of the we should say even more to the Ministry of Works that awarded the contract. There is no evidence they have the power to revoke the contract, and they have the power under the law to get that part of the payment for which they have no work, to recover that money to public treasury and award the contract to another contractor under clear terms of contract execution.
Thank you.
So let us not.
Thank you.
Let us not shy away from the root cause of the problem. May we not engage anyone that is beyond our capacity to bring under control. Don't hire who you cannot fire.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, let me point of order, sir. Point of order. Let me give an opportunity to the
point of order, Mr. President.
We will be dragging ourselves backwards with points of order. This is a constitutional issue. Is your point of order going to be above the Constitution? Senate President Emeritus.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I'm Ahmed Lawan, I represent Yobe North. Mr. President, Let me join my colleagues who spoke earlier to say that what we are discussing is of a fundamental consequence. But I have a different attitude to this. And here I would like to state very clearly that committees of the Senate, whether special, ad hoc, or standing, are coordinated by the Senate leader or office of the Senate leader. Mr. President, to me, when committees have issues with either contractors or agencies they supervise and oversight, they should start with Senate leader's office. In a situation where we have a contractor, and here I will agree with so many of our colleagues who said we shouldn't be discussing Julius Berger here, the way we are discussing it. Because it's like the ministry has failed, Ministry of Works, and now the entire people of Nigeria are talking about Julius Berger and a contractor that has signed agreements, and those agreements are meant to be kept by both sides. Mr. President, when we have issues like this, plenary is not the best place because you won't get the best information. When we are in a closed session, you will hear a lot more than we are hearing now, because at that point it will be no whole bad. So I will advise that we have said enough. Either we go into closed session now and deal with it and conclude on how we go forward, or we may delay it, but I believe that discussing it in plenary does not help the Senate. And therefore I agree with the submission of Senator Dicksion, and of course partially with the submission of my friend and brother here, the former NLC president, the senator representing Edo North, Senator Oshiomhole. But I say partially, the Senate committees of the National Assembly can invite a contractor. Why? If the minister has failed or the ministry has failed, we approved funds and we want to see value for money. We want to see economy. We want to see prudence in the way and manner our funds that we appropriated are utilized. So in conclusion, Mr. President, I will advise that we should find a way of going into closed session and open up so that we deal with this issue. And like many of us said, it's beyond Julius Berger. And this has been a recurring decimal in most sessions of the National Assembly. Ministers, heads of agencies, contractors, sometimes, or many times, they will simply ignore. And when I served as Chairman of Public Accounts Committee, which I did in this Senate for 8 years, I knew how the Senate President then gave us the support by signing 1 or 2 warrants, and everybody started to be a better person. We invite you, you will appear. So, Mr. President, I advise, let's go into closed session, and when there is need for signing a warrant, Mr. President, don't hesitate. We have to make example of some people and some institutions. Thank you very much.